Welcome to the Be Better podcast, presented by CSO Broker, the show where we will speak to innovators in sustainability. So through collaboration, we can build a better world. Solutions today for a better tomorrow. Welcome back, listener. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that might seem far outside the scope of ESG and sustainability. I wanted to talk about NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. NFT might sound complicated, but let's break it down. Non-fungible, which essentially just means that something isn't easily replaced with something else, right? Like your favorite hoodie. Even if someone gave you another hoodie, it wouldn't be the same as the one you love, right? That's because each hoodie is unique in its own way. NFTs are very much the same. They're digital items that are one of a kind, just like your hoodie. Now let's look at the tokenized aspect. A token is like a digital certificate of ownership, right? It's proof that you own something. In the case of an NFT, it shows that you own a specific digital item, whether it's a piece of artwork, a video clip, a song, a portion of a project, or even a tweet. So when you buy an NFT, you're essentially buying a digital certificate that proves you own something unique and special, whether it be online or a physical thing. It could be digital artwork, a video clip of a famous moment in sports, or even a special emoji. And just like the physical collectibles, people can buy, sell, and trade NFTs. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert in these digital assets or the underlying technology, but I have seen a tremendous resurgence in potential applications across finance, operations, and yes, even sustainability. I'll be highlighting a few specific use cases in future episodes, but before we get to that, I wanted to invite one of the nation's foremost experts on digital assets to the show. Brian Esposito, who's the CEO of Diamond Lake Minerals, is here to talk about the rebound that we're seeing and the rise of the digital security token. Brian, thanks so much for joining the Be Better podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Not as much as me, Bobby, so thanks for having me.
Brian, I will say I have communicated with a lot of high-power executives.
Millions of people.
Millions of people, that's right.
That's right.
A lot of high-power executives over the course of the past couple of years. I would consider yourself to fall in that bucket. And
thanks.
You're the first to recognize that time is our most precious commodity. In fact, it's kind of right on your LinkedIn, tagline, if you will. But in the same breath, the level of just the genuine nature in all of our communication that we've had, the high cadence at which and velocity at which you respond has been pretty remarkable, given someone who I know is seemingly everywhere all at once, right? How do you manage your time to be able to stay so highly communicative?
Oh man, great question, and thank you for acknowledging that. And I will emphasize, it's me writing back. There's no AI. It's my voice, and there's no assistants. I never had an assistant, so it's me. It's been I guess my entire life. I look at people communicating with me, and I take high pride and I respect that moment, because if someone's sharing something with me, I sit back and listen and I give them my focus. I also have a very on and off the plate mentality, so there's no pile up of things. So you send me a message, I'm right there as quickly as I can responding back, and I'm excited that you're reaching out to me or whatever we're discussing. So there's a nice level of energy, and I always try to look at everything from a positive light. I will say, I hate to give Mr. Bezos any credit because he kind of ran me through hell with one of my earlier companies in Amazon. But, and not to reference an awful time in history, he took me into Vietnam when it's in regards to responding back to customers immediately, or they'll take you off Amazon. Responding back to issues, answering questions, returns. So I'm there like Christmas and birthdays, and making sure I respond back to people, and, getting so fast to do it without even looking. So I will say that training for many, many years allowed me to be very quick at getting back to people and making sure that I'm responding with, I would say, the perfect amount of letters and words that answer the questions, throw some genuine, some little flavor in there where it's not just, boring. So I don't know how to answer that question. It's just how I've evolved into treating communication and people with respect and giving everybody my time because they gave me some of theirs.
Yeah, I think it's a good takeaway for really anyone, kind of in business, is we're all in the business of developing relationships, right? Let's talk about Diamond Lake Minerals, though. I am so interested to hear, some of the work that you guys are doing. Can you talk a little bit, just set the stage for us on the work that you're doing at Diamond Lake Minerals, and just for those unfamiliar with the company?
Yeah, thank you. Exciting times. It's the culmination of 23 plus years of my professional career. So I'll give you a little bit backstory, and then we can dive into the DLMI. So I've always been an entrepreneur, a lunatic, right? Always building companies and supporting companies and having a vision of making things grow. So through that, it's 23 plus years. My private companies, Esposito Intellectual Enterprises, that's accumulated to a holdings of over 110 companies. There's over 200 joint ventures around the world there, and proudly operating over 25 different industries. So that's been my baby that I've been nurturing, growing up, watering. That's led me to meet some amazing people and get some tremendous support and really build and nurture relationships, which has allowed me to find this opportunity with Diamond Lake Minerals, which is ticker symbol DLMI. In August of this year, I was asked to come in and take over as CEO. The president and director that kept that company alive for a long time, Michael Reynolds, old school, late 70s gentleman, my kind of guy, talks about balance sheets, earnings, growing businesses, not this nonsense unicorn, unnecessary valuations, and building fluff. It's about really building businesses. So his pedigree and history and me aligned immediately. So took over in late August, and what I'm building there is an old school GE conglomerate model. So you have a parent umbrella, which is Diamond Lake Minerals. It's a state of Utah, which is coincidentally a very favorable thing, as we'll discuss, since 1954. So that company's been there for a long time. So parent umbrella, underneath that, all these multiple subsidiaries, industry agnostic. So if you can look at what I've done in my private career, kind of mimicking that. All about building businesses, acquiring businesses, starting companies, again, across multiple industries. And if you look at our advisors that have joined my team, you'll see hospitality, you'll see media, you'll see very tech focused, you'll see gaming and regulatory, you'll see banking, very pretty amazing suite of people. I like to call them, whether you're a Yankees fan or not, the 1927 Murderers Row was the best team ever. So that's what I'm bringing over here in the business world. Where it gets really fun and interesting is my work in digital assets over the last decade. And a lot of people hear these we'll call them buzzwords. You hear tokens, you hear crypto, you hear NFT, you hear digital assets.
Yeah,
I play in the world of regulatory. I respect regulatory. Therefore, I want to be in the digital asset space, but in an environment that's regulated. So these are known as security tokens. Right. So these are the ability to bring capital into companies or projects on a global basis through a regulatory security offering. Our partners there is INX. I believe they're the best in breed security token exchange that's regulated by the SEC. So where it gets fun, and why we have this interesting spotlight on us, is that we have this structure of a company, parent, multiple subsidiaries, but within those subsidiaries, we'll be offering security token offerings to people around the world that want to participate in our vision, share in our earnings, which is something that's never been done before. Wow. So from my work and understanding of the wealth of the world that sits on the sidelines, that hears these terms such as crypto, NFT, digital assets, tokens, they don't understand it. They don't believe in it. They're intimidated by getting a digital wallet. So they just get closed off by it. They may want to participate in it, but they just don't know how, or they've tried it and they lost all their assets in their MetaMask wallet because they clicked on a link. It's a lot of friction points. But what they do know how to do is buy a stock. So we want to
Right.
be that stock in their portfolio that they can say and reference and proudly say, oh, I'm in the digital assets world. I own DLMI.
Yeah.
And I do believe that our model is the future of finance. And I anticipate and hope a lot of other public companies will replicate what we set out to do here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit on something there. Blockchain, crypto, digital assets are really shrouded in complexity. And I've personally experienced a lot of resistance with various organizations that I've either consulted with or been a part of directly, kind of pushing ideas for potential use cases forward in companies in the past. To quote one leader that I used to work for, he was like, "You lost me at tokenization." And I think that happens to a lot of people. What would you recommend for someone who wants to start socializing, the idea of a digital asset or the potential use case of one across their company?
You have to educate yourself on it.
Yeah.
I reference this to early 2000s when brokerage firms went online to be able to buy and sell stocks through a web portal, through a website. That took a lot of time socializing that for people to trust that process. They
Oh
were
yeah.
so used to calling their broker, hanging out with their broker, and actually doing the trade. So it's reminiscence to that psychology of getting comfortable with a new asset class, and that's still in its infancy, and then getting comfortable with how do I even get involved with that. It's a very I'll say it's a scary process if you don't know anything. Anything's a scary process if you're not comfortable with it. So finding the right exchange, from my opinion, you want to go on INX or INX1. And now you're on what would be, I would reference it as an E-Trade, a Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley portal, because again, it's a highly secure, regulated platform. So by
Right.
going on a platform like that, you know that the projects that they're talking about, there's a level of vetting there. There's strict compliance. So you know that the offering is legal through the parameters of regulatory. And you know that your money's safe because you're going through a very approved and compliant system. So that's where I would start. Um, a lot of people, I guess an easy place to go would be on Coinbase too, and just to me, if you're looking at those types of crypto investments, even though there's a lot of companies that I'm involved with that I believe in that have real seasoned teams behind them, real businesses, but majority of them are these meme coins or these, really nothing behind them, but not to say that they can't create value. I kind of look at them as Pink Sheet, over the counter, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. So
Right.
I would say you'd want to find things that you're passionate about and find ways to adapt that into your portfolio in a very, very calculated and de-risked fashion.
Right.
But I think it's very important that you go on. Coinbase is very safe, public company. INX, again, very safe. I'd be very careful as to what exchanges you go on and submit your information, because there's things could happen where all of a sudden all that money gets frozen in there. You don't have access to it. It's not
Right.
liquid. So and there's nowhere to really to go if that happens. So don't put all your money into these exchanges. Dabble around in it. To me, it's something that you can have fun with. You can learn the process, and think about it as money. Like when you go to a casino, you're supposed to gamble with money that you can afford to lose. That's the mentality you're supposed to have. So I would say the same thing here, and start to understand that this is the norm. At some point, you will log on to your Charles Schwab account and be able to buy security tokens. You will be able to go to your Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch account and buy security tokens. That's when it goes really mainstream, and that's when it's available for the masses. But in the meantime, there's a few extra steps you have to do to be able to be in this industry. And I say, if you are doing that, you're well ahead of the curve, and you have the opportunity to find assets or investments or projects that are, think of it as an IPO moment. Most people don't get to participate in an IPO moment because they don't have a certain level of money in their
Right.
account, or they're not blessed by their broker, or they don't have the access to these previous rounds. Here's an opportunity for you to get involved in something before it hits really mainstream. You just have to do your homework and be careful.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit about NFTs. And I think more so just get your perspective, on the rise in popularity. I think right around COVID, the market correction, and from my perspective, like the associated wave of fear, uncertainty, doubt, and the ripple effects of skepticism, if you will, kind of towards that asset class. I'm really curious to kind of get your take on really just that scenario.
Yeah, go backwards a little bit. That market exploded because everybody was stuck in their house.
Right.
They were craving community. They were craving ways to get involved in things. And on the business side, IP owners, businesses, talent, managements, athletes, entertainers, they needed some outlet to earn and stay relevant. So that's why you saw this huge move. And the whole globe went into, what is that? How do I get into it? So that the issue that happened there went way too far, way too fast without building real business models around it and really without supporting those business models. And there was no guardrails. You had projects just being issued and you were attaching a celebrity to it, and this is going to be worth $1 billion. And a few of them really went strong. We have a couple that we just were like, this is the fastest thing I've ever seen in my career as to how you can build a huge community and audience through these mechanisms on blockchain and bringing in components of Web3. All for that, but all for that in a systematic, legal way, which are these securities? Are they not securities? What is the real utility around that offering? What's the real project besides a cool looking picture that you want to put as your profile picture and community? That's, there's value in that in itself, and being part of something that, we need that as human beings. We need to feel associated with something. We need to feel that camaraderie with our peers, and just again, to feel part of something. So there's value in that. For me, as I'm looking at NFTs and the projects that I've spent a lot of time and resources in building that went through this wild ride, I'm looking at them all as distressed assets. I'm looking at that giant pool of IP and saying, okay, how do I, myself included, how do I turn this into value? And how do I take what I'm building at DLMI in a regulatory environment and some of the technologies that we're building and some of the marketplaces that we're building and the security token aspect, how do I take that and offer an exchange to all of this IP and create something of value? So that's what I've been working very hard on, because there is a lot of people out there sitting with a lot of assets in their wallets that are worthless or worth. And I like to also look at the psychology about it, because I'm a marketer at heart.
Right.
The passion that people had in these projects is like nothing I've ever seen. They're printing shirts, they're printing hats. We had people that were skydiving with our brand on it. I'm like, this is amazing. Imagine if you were to do that and do some good in the world. And if everybody did that in New York City at the same time and helped every homeless person on the street, hell, that's amazing. So I look at the energy and the passion, and these people also believe that these things are worth something because they took the time to dedicate their brand to it. They put money behind it. They're on Discord and Telegram and Twitter 24 hours a day, some of these people. So to me, that's a lot of passion. That's a lot of energy. How do I convert that into something that made all that worthwhile? So that's that's how I'm looking at this industry. Now, NFTs will be fantastic for ticketing. They'll be great for the entertainment, sporting, and music industries. So there's it's going to be part of our environment for commerce, for community, for connectivity. But again, it has to be like sitting in your Apple wallet. It has to be user friendly for the masses to be able to say, okay, I own an NFT. I didn't even know I owned one. I went through a checkout process. A wallet was built for me, and now I have one in my wallet. It has to be that easy. But again, in the meantime, because it's not easy, because the early adapters are building these things and creating that value, if you're in it now and you're smart about it, you're probably building a nice portfolio of these digital assets that'll have some real value, like a Mickey Mantle signed rookie card or something.
I love it. And I'm a big baseball guy, so that
I didn't even know that. That's why I'm referencing
I love all well done. So when you and I were going back and forth, we got kind of talking about leveraging digital assets, NFTs, potentially in the carbon markets, and how to drive other sustainable outcomes using this technology. Can you talk a bit more about this unique partnership with Evergreen, and maybe some of the potential use cases that are looking to assist the energy transition, and just building a better world for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I love what Evergreen is doing. We've got a great partnership there with my private holdings, Esposito and Intellectual Enterprises, and then we just announced our one with DLMI. I think it's the most easiest way for people to be involved in reforestation and doing some positive good with the money generating from these companies, or some sort of call to action. And it's very simple the way they allocate it. It's pretty much certain planning mechanisms and regions is a little bit more money, but let's just say it's $1 a tree. There's something very tangible. They have tremendous technology for satellite tracking of where it's being planted.
Yeah.
And you're creating jobs in that local environment too, which is something that's really important to me. So it's not just the idea of helping the planet and hopefully doing things to reverse climate change and having some positive impact on our world. It's also providing salaries and purpose for people that are there planning. They also, wear the Evergreen gear, so there's pride. Excuse me, sorry. I just did a 2-hour power through before this one.
Take your time.
So when we get these videos, again, I love passion and I love energy. You see these people that are so excited that you went in, you donated money. They're bringing you to the farm or the area where they're planting. They're videoing it. Like, that should be infectious. That should be what makes people thrive. And that's what I want to see on. We're not going to see it. I think they even got rid of the positive little segment on the news. Usually at the end of the news day, they show something like, oh, and this border collie Lassie had 14 puppies today. Way to go, Lassie.
Yeah.
Now there's nothing. It's just like
to try to equalize it.
Nothing. So like, I want to see things like that. And that goes back to time is our most precious commodity. And I need to, with all the work that I'm doing, not pie in the sky and super naive. I need to surround myself with good energy, good thoughts, good projects, doing great things like working with Evergreen and utilizing the technology, the reach, the little bit of a voice that I've created in my world, and making something of that. It's not the money. The money's a byproduct of us doing good work, but the money should be used and recycled into doing as much as we can to help people, help life in general on this planet, because it's not easy. There's way too many of us, but that doesn't mean that anybody should be hungry or anybody should be thirsty or without shelter. There's just too much wealth in the world for that to be a reality. So my position is, I want there to be free, fresh, clean water for as many people, for the world and life, not just human beings. We all need that commodity. And besides time, I do believe it's going to be our most precious commodity in our lifetime. And I believe oil will trade like oil. Water will trade like oil in our lifetime. And that's going to be a very scary moment.
Yeah, that is
so
scary.
we need to do things today with there's brilliant people around the world. There's a lot of money around the world, and there's amazing technologies around the world that can be used to protect us and to protect our existence.
Yeah. And I think you really hit on something that is incredibly undervalued about the mechanism that is, kind of the voluntary carbon market, and using that as a mechanism to, for capacity building and upskilling in underdeveloped countries around the world. I see it as an incredibly unique opportunity to help those countries, actually build out low carbon economies, right? Something that we didn't really have the opportunity to do a long time ago, right? And by leveraging these projects elsewhere, with the right technology and, kind of security background and regulation in place, can be a really powerful mechanism to get people the money that they need. I was having a conversation yesterday, like, unfortunately, like, these underdeveloped countries, there is this dichotomy between survival and sustainability, right? And people who unfortunately just don't really have, the fiscal positioning to be able to make that choice a lot of the times. They're just trying to survive, right?
Yeah.
So by, kind of making this, putting this energy in a positive direction, it really does all start to come together and work, in a more systematic way.
Absolutely does. And unfortunately, one of the first things 90% of the people say to me when I talk about what we're talking about, and we get carbon credits, right? Or we get tax credits. I'm like, Okay, yeah, that's going to be important, and I
Right.
get it, but that's not the motivator. If the motivator is how do you win more financially, that's not. I don't want to have that conversation with you. Yeah, this system will evolve, and there'll be a simple way to have these carbon credits. Why don't you why don't you get in that position and work hard and figure it out? And in the meantime, do what you can to help people, do what you can to help this planet. And if and when you can take advantage of these tax credits or these carbon credits, great, even more beautiful. But that shouldn't be your initial. It's just I get very frustrated when I see people program that it's just about money.
Right.
No, it's a necessary evil. You need it to do good things. But if you're just looking at it how it benefits you more, then you're already going into it with the wrong mentality, and you're already limiting yourself as to what we could possibly do together.
Yeah. I love it.
Thanks,
You
man. Me
are
too.
one, you're one of the, kind of people who really recognizes that, the world was built, kind of in this system working together, and in our world today, it really is about, the people that right? Especially with Esposito Intellectual Enterprises. How impactful for you has consistent networking and communication and providing value to those in your network been on your personal success, would you say?
That's 100% of it.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You need to nurture relationships. DLMI is the first time I really went out and had an ask of my network, but my
Right.
ask also came with, we're building something really badass here. You want to be part of this. So
Yeah.
it was a mutual excitement. So when you build out your network, and I get a little saddened sometimes. Like my LinkedIn is just every day. I got to work on my time management there because that's my home. But
Yeah.
it's like the messages I get are novels. Just not even a hello, how are you, happy Tuesday. It's just a novel with an ask.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Like for me, it's one of my biggest supporters is I don't know if I can say his name or not, but he's the head of a very large shipping company.
Yeah.
I love this guy, and our bond was created through, hey man, hope you're doing well, best to you, and this is me to him, best to your family, Merry Christmas, your daughter's birthday, hope you guys had a great time. That's the messaging. And
Right.
that's year after year after year after year. And then there was a moment where, I got something that could be really interesting for us to do without even hesitation. Give me a call, let's talk about it. Like right
Yep.
then and there as I sent the message. That's how you accomplish anything. You cannot go right into and ask with your hand out to anybody. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You can even unfortunately watch a homeless guy in the street. Their hand is always out asking.
Right.
1,000 people can pass them. One or
Yeah.
two may throw something their way. It doesn't work. You need to build a relationship. You need to build trust, and it has to be genuine. I think my voice, it's not. Sometimes I wish it was manufactured. Like I am as genuine and as transparent as it can be, and that's gotten me in harm's way too. Because if you're like that with, I don't like to say people are good or bad, but if you're like that with people that have ulterior motives or aren't the best morals or ethics or values, it hurts you because it gives you this little bit of distaste for humanity when like you're out there trying to do good, you're out there, guns on the table, fully naked as far as who you are as a person, fully vulnerable. Good people will love that and they'll connect with you and you'll make an unbreakable bond. Bad people will see that and try to attack you or use your vulnerabilities, weaken you. But I've made a conscious decision as best as my ability, and I've been through hell and back multiple times. I can't change who I am, but I need to be smarter as to who I allow myself to be with. And that goes back again to time, making sure that you're properly spending your time with the right people, for the right people, and on the right things or projects or companies. And it just takes one negative thing or one bad thing that can disrupt everything that I've been building. So I have to be very conscious of that and be very aware of my own vulnerabilities and stupidities as a human being and my
Right.
DNA and
Yeah.
make sure that I just invite the right things into my world.
Yeah. I love it. And to, bring it back, you kind of got me thinking about, kind of the nascent population. And, there are, obviously a lot of panhandlers out there who, kind of have their palms up, or a bucket out. But you'll notice that if you go to New York City or a large municipality, like there are actually some really, we'll call it successful, panhandlers who are actually washing windows first.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And then
yeah,
they're providing value,
Yeah.
right? So I think that, I think you really hit on something there. Brian, awesome conversation. Thanks so much for taking the time. I have one more question for you. How can we all be better?
Oh, it's a great question. As I've grown into the young gentleman I am today, I use that word empathy every day for myself and how I want to represent or present myself to the world. I think if you don't have any level of empathy, and mine has gotten stronger. There's been times where I've got a little emotional and it might have went backwards for an hour or a day. Right. But you need to understand and connect with people's pain. You need to understand that it's not easy for the masses. And even if you have a lot of money, it doesn't mean that your life's any easier or your stresses are any less. So I really always try to operate from that mindset with whoever I'm just communicating with, whatever I'm working on. Someone could just have a bad day, and you just have to understand that, hey, they might be just going through something. I like to throw a little prayer up for them. Hopefully they're doing well. And I think the more empathetic we are for, humankind, the better we all can be for one another. I don't think it's one of the reasons why I love building these companies and being out in the world and traveling around the world and being with people is it allows me to not be disconnected to reality. There's a lot of CEOs that I know and a lot of leaders that I know that lead from, the top floor of a high skyscraper or a very nice building in Beverly Hills or Dallas, and they go from their golf club to their home to that, and they try to dictate products and services and pricing to the world. And I don't know how you do that. You need to you go to a Denny's once in a while, or go to a Waffle House, go to a mall, and if you're just going from the high end mall to your country club to we have a table at the steakhouse. Like, I get so nauseous when I see people talk like that because to each their own. God bless you that you have these things, but it doesn't work for me. I've always felt a little lost in this world because I do great things and I'm surrounded by great people and hit some successes in my life, but I do much better out in the world, finding a little hole in the wall bar and talking to somebody next to me. Like that's what I love to do. Those are my moments. Those are my memories that I love to have. And I think the more people that can be around realness, and then once they're around realness more, that's when the high net worths of the world should then have that empathy and that generosity to do things like working with companies like Evergreen to donate more to St. Jude, to work with the food bank, to work with Charity Water, to do these things. You did great. You made a lot of money. God bless you. You have generational wealth there. You're probably raising some obnoxious kids, but why don't you take some of that money and that resources and help people? Like that's what I think we're supposed to do on this planet. We're here to help one another, and anything else doesn't make much sense to me. So to me, long answer is empathy, and go out in the world and hit a White Castle and get a burger one day and understand what's going on out there.
As I reflect on this conversation with Brian, I can't help but to draw some synergies that I've experienced working on sustainability. One thing I do know is that change is one of the only constants in the universe, and yet people are still incredibly resistant to change. When you look at the rise, retreat, and rebound of digital assets gaining more momentum today after really smart people like Brian and his team at Diamond Lake Minerals work to make this mechanism more accessible and secure, it reminds me of the same rise, retreat, and rebound that we saw in the carbon markets. And it's a reminder that making options readily accessible, tangible, and dependable should be our Northern Star. And just because there's a market correction or there's some negative press doesn't necessarily mean that a solution is not the future. More on next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Be Better podcast. As always, we really do appreciate your support and engagement when it comes to these conversations around sustainability, the environment, social, and governance topics. However, we want to emphasize that the information presented on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. We are not financial advisors, and the content discussed here is not intended as financial or investment advice. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the hosts, guests, or affiliated companies. Investing or making any financial decisions should always be done after careful consideration of your own financial situation and with the guidance of a qualified financial professional or advisor. The content provided here does not constitute as personalized financial investment or legal advice.